Welcome back. Now, in a world fragmented by disconnection, Dr. Birdie Nghwenyama's visionary project, Matimu, Footprints in Nature, beckons us to reconnect with the land, our heritage, and of course each other. This profound endeavour transcends music, becoming a poignant exploration of humanity's intertwined relationships with nature, culture, and history. Nghwenyama's clarion call invites us to rediscover, to reclaim, and harmonize with the essence of our collective existence. Joining us now is anthropologist, singer and songwriter Dr. Birdie Nghwenyama to talk about a journey. A very good morning to you, Dr. Nghwenyama. Thanks for joining us. Welcome.
Thank you.
It's an absolute
pleasure. By the way,
pleasure.
Nghwenyama is the name of the song, is the title of the song.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay, got that. Thank you. So let's talk about Matimu, Footprints in Nature. What is that project all about and what really inspired it?
So I'm currently recording my second album titled Matimu, Footprints in Nature, and it's really about merging the work that I do as an anthropologist in the human environment space and my work as an artist. And so the songs are really reflective of my experiences of, while I was doing research in Mapungubwe National Park and, the other experiences that I had doing research in the human environment space before that as well.
Yeah. And having undergone that research, what is it that you discovered or found that really triggered your interest, to take it through your music?
Oh, so many things. I think the thing about working in the biodiversity conservation space is that there's always been the human nature, so to say, so the human environment dichotomy that's always been pushed, which is a colonial idea, really. And what I've found is that, there are so many social issues. And so as a result of that approach to biodiversity conservation, people's social, political issues have always been, ignored in that space, as if conservation areas are not affected by social issues. And so when I went back to do, this research in Mapungubwe, I found that there are so many social issues that come up, issues of land claims, post-apartheid land claims, issues of belonging, issues of human environment and human-animal conflict or interactions. And so there are many issues that come up, many social issues that come up in that space. And so with the music, I'm really bringing that out to say, people live in these places and these are the experiences that they have. We have idioms that, that our great-grandparents have always used that really are centered around them being a part of the environment and existing in those spaces.
And having said that, how does the project then reconnect people with their land, with nature, and of course with each other?
I think people have always been connected with the land and people have always been connected with each other, but there's been narratives that have been pushed about especially African communities and their connections to these spaces. We've always been convinced that black people are not interested in these places, but our people have been living here and they have stories and narratives to tell about this place, and there are so many knowledges that have been generated as a result of them living in these places.
At face value, it might seem and look a complex project to undertake. I mean, we're talking about some of the pertinent issues, land, heritage, and everything else, and you also talk about your music. Let's talk about the creative process, in the creation of this project, Matimu.
Oh, so I mean, a lot of the songs that I've written for this project, some of the sounds started coming up as early as 2019 while I was doing the research. And it's funny because there was a time when I was so tired that I thought I wouldn't want to record another album, and so being in these places and talking to the old people and having experiences in these environments really inspired a lot of those sounds. So as I was doing the research, some of the sounds came up and I would just record them and, and put them away. And and now here we are, we're working on an album.
Okay. Yeah, so what then triggers the melody? I mean, how do you get the melody for you to then translate it into a song or music?
I can't pinpoint it to any one specific thing, but sometimes I dream about melodies.
Oh, really?
And sometimes we'll just be driving through the park and I'll just be hearing something in my head and I'll just record it. So yeah, it happens in various ways, really.
And I see your unique blend of anthropology and, your music informs your artistry. So how does the intersectionality of those reflect or find expression in your music?
I think there's no way of escaping it. There was no way I could escape it because I write about my personal experiences and because I've worked in this space for so long. This is a part of my life, and so music is just as much a part of my life. And so, as I walk through and as I do the research and as I interact with the people that I interact with, as I interact with the animals, some of this inspiration comes up and it's bound to reflect in the music.
Yeah. Yeah, you mentioned something very interesting, your interaction with animals. Am I correct to assume that that sort of inspires you to take your musical notes a little bit further after your interaction with animals?
It does. I mean, I write in my thesis, I have a chapter on elephants, and my friends will tell you I talk about elephants all the time.
Okay.
And I've got a very tricky relationship with them, where I have the utmost respect for elephants, and it's precisely because they tell you so many things about life, and and how people feel about them, and how people feel about space.
What is it that they tell us about life?
Oh, I mean, in Mapungubwe, for example, you have people who, an elephant is a totem to them, right? And so there's the spiritual sense of it, and there's the totemism that exists there. But there's also other issues of everyday life where, people who live in these areas are affected by the presence of elephants, because elephants raid their crops, elephants just walk through the places where they live, and they affect other parts of their everyday lives. And, and they also tell us about the legalities that exist within conservation areas, especially transfrontier conservation areas, which are conservation areas that span across various countries, like Mapungubwe is, right? So in Mapungubwe, animals can move around between countries in that area because the fences have been broken down. Not that elephants really respect fences, really, they can go through any fence, right? But the people who live in those areas, if someone from Zimbabwe walks across to South Africa and walks back on the same day because they live in this area and they've always lived that way, it's considered illegal. So that gives you an idea of also the conservation policies, that govern certain countries, and what that tells us about, how people are viewed as opposed to how wildlife is viewed.
Dr. Birdie, you've just added a totally different dimension to this conversation, and I'm actually glad that you did that, because it leads to my next question, like how can we, how can conservation efforts in South Africa, be reoriented to prioritize the indigenous community involvement?
I think conservation, needs to first of all prioritize humans as well, so bring humans into the conversation, because humans have always been fenced out, with the wildlife fenced in. Yeah. So there needs to be a recognition of the fact that we are as much a part of the environment as the animals are. Right. We are just, there's non-human and human nature, but all of it exists within the same environment.
All the best, Dr. Birdie. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Great stuff. Well, Dr. Birdie, they're talking to us as we explore the inspiring work of a true champion and environmental and social justice.